Hello, and welcome to another Source Gaming discussion. I'm your host, Tris, and I'm joined by Wolfman
Hello.
and Phantom Z2
Hello, Nintendo gamers.
to give our thoughts and predictions in this pre-E3 discussion. So with that, let's start with the non-Nintendo companies, since that's where E3 starts with. So what have you got first according to the schedule?
First up is EA on Saturday, June 9th, although for Sunday, June 10th for our readers who are on more of the Eastern Hemisphere.
Okay, so what do we think's coming from EA aside from probably at least one sports game? Because I'm pretty sure they always reveal at least one at E3. I think there's always at least one.
I think FIFA 19 was already announced, right? I believe it was announced. I've heard things about it.
I know it's on leaks. That's what I know at the very least.
Yeah, so FIFA 19 has been announced that it would be revealed on June 9th.
Mm-hmm.
So that has been announced. So that's the sports title so far. If there's anything else, I mean, I guess maybe
Okay.
football probably. But
Mm-hmm.
other than that, what I really expect from EA is, what every year, or it seems like every now and then they have like
Mm-hmm.
one indie game. Like they had a Way Out last E3,
Right.
and then I believe Faye that was showed off in the Nintendo Direct
Yep.
last
Yes,
year.
I believe so.
Right. So I would expect some type of indie game or something that's just being published or sponsored by them, but that's not actually directly created by them.
Okay.
Other than that,
A nice example of them trying to show that they aren't a soulless monolith.
oh yeah, yeah. After the stuff that's been happening with, ooh, do you think that they might like try to save face or like try to at least like even bother mentioning it?
I actually think that they will probably have something about how, like, we've listened to the fans and we understand their complaints. They're not going to ever mention the word microtransactions. Um, but I also, I think that really we're probably not going to see that much outside of FIFA and Madden. The one, and hopefully at least one, if not more, kind of smaller indie games they're supporting. But the only real big thing I could think of is Anthem, where we'll see and presumably be disappointed by the initial first look.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean to sound.
I thought it was pretty cool.
No, I don't mean to sound cynical.
It's okay. When I first saw it, at first it did remind me. That's the one with like all the mechs and stuff, right?
Yeah, no, Anthem is the next kind of big game from BioWare.
It's not like mechs, but it's like these robotic suits. That's what I meant. Yeah, it did remind me a bit of what was it Xenoblade X, just from like the suit aspect, just like the mechanical stuff. But I think it looks to be a pretty big game, honestly. Maybe like bigger than like. Well, I mean, maybe bigger than, of course, bigger than Breath of the Wild or something like that. But I think maybe on like the scale of like Monster Hunter World that kind of just recently came out, like in terms of like how deep it goes into maybe mechanics or even the world that it has set up. Because it looks from what we've seen the previous year like it'll be a big title, that something that EA is definitely gonna put like a lot of work into, probably a lot of development time into. But I don't think we'll see something like maybe like a release or something this year. I'd be surprised.
It's been in development for a few years already, I think, because there were
Okay.
preliminary development started after Mass Effect 3's DLC ended. It's also kind of looks very Destiny-esque.
I'm not big into Destiny, so if it ends up being like Destiny, I probably wouldn't have as much of an attachment to it. But hopefully it's maybe like a bit of more of its own thing instead of like.
Yeah, I'm no fan of Destiny, to be clear. It just seems that way for better and worse.
All right. So, which of these on the schedule would you guys like to hit upon next then?
I think we should keep going in like time order.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
the next
so-
one would be Microsoft for Eastern, it's Sunday, June 11th at 5 p.m. And is it? I personally don't have an Xbox, so I guess I'll leave my thoughts last. If I don't know if you guys have an Xbox though, or if you guys are into Microsoft stuff.
I'm not big on Microsoft. I have friends that are, and I do know that some of them are expecting more racing games, and they're expecting a car to be shown off with them because that tends to happen a lot. But they're like actually looking forward to it, so that leads me to believe there's a strong chance of that happening again.
I don't have an Xbox One.
Yeah.
All right. So, from what I've heard around, I believe the E3 conference for Xbox is 2 hours,
Okay.
which I'm kind of surprised about because I think I don't remember how long their conference was last year. I think it was maybe an hour long, maybe.
Yeah.
It's been a year.
2 hours.
But
That's wow.
2 hours seems like a whole lot of time, so I would expect a whole lot of releases. But I think the biggest thing about Xbox is what exclusively will they have? Because of course I think they'll have big titles maybe this year,
Right.
like something like Halo related, maybe Gears of War related. I'm not exactly familiar with those franchises, but I think if their E3 press conference is going to be this long, I think some big name titles would have to be announced. Maybe address some games like I believe Crackdown 3 or just Crackdown 3, I believe, which got delayed or is being delayed from what I've heard. And so I guess either address games that will be coming this year or at least games that are definitely coming next year or maybe early next year, because I think it's a bit too sudden to maybe go into 2020 or late 2019
Yeah.
if you're gonna have a 2 hour E3 press conference. Because I guess if you're gonna announce more things for the next year, I think it would be better for Microsoft to at least wait until next year or wait until like a later time in the year to at least just do like have like a big event where they want to address those type of titles.
I do agree with you though that they're probably going to have a lot of exclusives revealed and whatnot. Because if they have 2 hours, they need to make sure they're holding one, people's attention during that, and two, that they're utilizing those 2 hours to actually show off things people really want to see.
Right. And even in regards to exclusive, I don't even think I'm not sure if they'll have exclusives because they don't, like most major Xbox games also end up going on PC as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, then
console exclusive then.
right. Yeah, if they have console exclusive, hopefully.
Actually, I was going to say one thing. It's just that it's been a few years. It's been a surprising, like 3-4 years since the last traditional Halo game. So I wouldn't be surprised to see it announced.
Yeah, that probably would end up getting announced this year. Do you think they'll take the battle royale format?
Yeah, like every
Oh, boy.
other shooter that will be announced.
Yeah. Hopefully if they do decide to announce Halo, it's not battle royale related. As it would be cool to see them stand out from the crowd. Hopefully. Anything else in regards to Xbox? I think would be last year they had the Xbox One X announcement, which was pretty much their Project Scorpio thing, and it was kind of, personally, I thought it was a kind of a disappointment because I thought it would be like this new major console, but yeah, it's like it's just 4K, and I can imagine seeing some big older games coming to the Xbox One X, as in like they'll be compatible now. Hopefully, like a bigger library of them, but in terms of what the console will if they're actually doing anything with a new console, because I think it's a bit weird for them having. I think it's a bit weird in general for the fact of they're already worried about the PS4 already being out on the way soon. So I think Microsoft would want to get at least a head start on that.
Yeah.
But even that, I personally think it's already too early for the next generation. So if we were to say that we're still in with the Xbox One X, what else can Microsoft do at this point?
Right.
And to like really grab people's attention, because last year when they showed off Dragon Ball Fighter Z, that was the most hype thing for me in that entire Xbox conference. And that was only because I didn't expect it. I would have expected that from Sony at
Right.
most, but not Microsoft because they don't really have that big Japanese market.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense though.
This may be kind of a weird question since none of us have Xboxes, but what's their situation with VR?
I don't think they have anything VR related.
I don't know if I don't know if they're working towards it, but I know they've at least like they're aware that it's something they could do, but I don't think there's anything more beyond that.
And I think with kind of like the depth of the Kinect, I think that might be not. I think that won't be the right kind of direction they would want to go.
Yeah.
And if they do decide to do VR, hopefully it would be better than the Kinect, because and it really didn't do that well in terms of how much people really wanted it, I think. And maybe this is a big maybe, because not sure if Rare is doing anything right now, but I think CFDs is developed by Rare.
Yeah.
But if they're not doing anything else, I think maybe a revival of their old franchises might be something that they could do. Because I think that'd probably be one of the biggest things of their conference. If they're going to be going on for this long, I'm definitely expecting some big surprises. But as a person who's not an Xbox fan, as a person who's not a Microsoft fan, there's not much for me to personally grasp at and say, oh, I want this, I want that. But as somebody who knows gaming and like the history that Rare has, Banjo-Kazooie or Conquer in some way or form that's actually good, not like, what was it, Little Conquer or the VR Conquer thing that they showed off, or maybe even like Nuts and Bolts Banjo-Kazooie. I think they would need something really big from either of those two franchises to really capture people's interest in the Xbox, to capture people's interest in Microsoft. And if they're going to be showing off those games for a while, and if those games end up coming out this year, I think at that point a 2-hour E3 presentation might be good enough. I think that might be good for them.
I think there's a good chance they can try to win back some people over because of I guess the best way to phrase it is in the last few years, I've heard a lot of people kind of jumping off on them or losing faith in them. But I think this year they'll probably want to try to bring people back in. They're gonna be working hard to do that.
And I just got a tweet stating that Microsoft's Crackdown 3 will launch in February 2019, and there will be more info at E3.
Oh,
so
go ahead. There we go then.
Yeah.
all right, there will be something then. All right, so outside of that, I guess most of it would be third party in terms of Microsoft, because as they are one of the big console departments out of Sony and Nintendo. In terms of third party games, I can't personally grasp at something that I can say I want, or that would make me buy an Xbox. I can't say that
Right.
there will, because most of the time, when something does come to Xbox, it ends up going to PC as well, and I could either just get it on PC, or it might end up coming to Sony as well. So that would be like, okay, well, why get it on this console when there's already so much on Sony that actually is exclusive, and I can just get it there. So I think Microsoft is really gonna have to pull out some big guns if they want this E3 to be something special for them, especially for 2 hours.
Yeah. I'm still surprised at the 2 hours. We'll have to see how they handle that then.
Yeah, that's
Right.
gross.
For the sake of making sure we move on, then why don't we
Yeah.
take a look at Bethesda then? Because since that's what's next.
Yeah, and of course, EA doesn't really have not a ton of stuff. I think that we're that interested. Microsoft is, a separate console or a separate console. This is, a Nintendo site first and foremost, and
Yep.
Bethesda and Nintendo have been a bit tight over the past year. So
Yeah, actually.
uh,
We could I could see at least one thing on Switch potentially being
For
shown.
Bethesda.
Yeah.
Right. So we recently has the new Colossus come out yet? Wolfenstein 2 for Switch.
I don't think it's out for Switch right now. It's out for Switch soon, I want to say.
Right. So I think if I think they might just address that for like a maybe a minute or two, saying, "Hey, remember to pick this up," or say if they had something like how they did with Skyrim, where you had the Zelda amiibo that actually worked, the Link amiibo that actually works in that actually works in Skyrim. If for some reason they were to do something crazy like that, that would be pretty hilarious. But outside of that, in terms of Switch relation, maybe a new Skyrim. If a new Skyrim ends up coming out, maybe a new Skyrim on Switch. That would be pretty cool. But in general, I think a new Skyrim, possibly. Well, I keep saying new Skyrim, but new Elder Scrolls is what the series actually is. A new Elder Scrolls game, I think, would probably be good for Bethesda. We already know about Fallout 76, and I think we'll be getting more info on that as of what it really is.
Yeah, I think we'll see more about Fallout 76. Do you think there's a chance of any other Fallout games potentially being put on Switch by any chance? Because I could see that being an announcement they do at E3 over anything else.
I can imagine Fallout 4 coming to Switch, maybe. There was also mention of how this year, I believe, was Fallout 3's 10th anniversary. So if they decide to do like a Fallout 3 remaster, then I could definitely see that being one of the things that they could mention. Something like that. Maybe a new Doom game. That's possible.
Okay, no, I was going to say that there's been some rumblings about Doom 2. I think there's been some about Fallout 3 Remaster. Both of those sound good. I think New Vegas is the better of the two Fallout games, but,
Outside of that, are there any other big titles from Bethesda that we are knowledgeable about? Because I've never played a Bethesda game. I've never played Doom. And I've only watched my uncle play Skyrim, so I'm not really big into Bethesda at all right now.
No, I'm not super knowledgeable on them either, aside from knowing of series like Fallout and Elder Scrolls and things like that. But I have not actually sat down and really played through any of them, aside from trying several of the Fallout games.
Elder Scrolls 4 came out in 2006. Skyrim came out in 2011.
And then it's still continuing to come out almost on an annual basis.
Yeah, I was actually going to mention that it makes sense why Phantom would call it Skyrim too, because that's basically what we've been getting. To the point where I'm fairly certain the Elder Scrolls Online emphasizes Skyrim more than any of the other areas. I might be wrong on that.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's Elder Scrolls Online is a thing. Maybe I could see that. Maybe that would get ported to Switch. It's because of the fact that with Skyrim already being there. But I guess we'll talk about why I think that later when we get to Nintendo.
Alright. Cool. So then, for now, if there's no other thoughts on Bethesda specifically, then why don't we move on to the next one on the schedule for the last one for Sunday, June 10th, Devolver Digital.
Yes!
Which is interesting.
Is that 11 p.m.? I thought it was at 11 a.m. for.
No, it says 11 p.m. Eastern.
Oh.
Yes.
Oops.
Devolver Digital's E3 press conference last year was fantastic.
Yes, it was. But as I went back to review it, I also see a lot of people saying, "But there were no games." So.
Were there really no games?
It was a parody of. It was a very dark, aggressive parody of E3 conferences that ends in.
Yep.
Like a surreal Lynchian nightmare.
I think. Well, I guess we can go back to it, concerning the fact that. I'm not exactly sure. I was gonna say, do you guys want to head on to Square Enix and Ubisoft before the PC gaming show, or?
Yeah, because I do think. I do have something to say for Square, personally, which will probably spark some conversation or something, but because we can't say much about the Devolver Digital aside from they're on there. We have no idea what they're going to do this time.
Right.
So
all right. So I did. Well, if we want to stay on PC Gaming Show, would you guys prefer to do that, or move on to move on to the other two companies before heading back to PC Gaming Show? So I do remember hearing that Sega would be at the PC gaming show. So
really?
if Sega is going to be there,
Mm-hmm.
I'm expecting a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I know this might be from me being as a fan, because a BB as a fan with some certain series like Sonic, but I think Sega really needs to show something, like how people have been asking, like Jet Set Radio Future for PC. Like even though Smilebit is unfortunately not with us anymore, as the company is defunct, I do think if they can bring Jet Set Radio Future onto PC, or Sonic Unleashed to PC, I think that would be really cool, because that's something that fans have been asking for so much, and that would amaze me. Other than that, I really think it's really hard for me to say, because I know that there's other big things coming from Sega. Like recently, they announced Team Sonic Racing.
Yes,
and,
yes.
And last, I believe, or actually it was earlier this year, I believe, where they had Sega Fest, and they announced a new Sakura Wars game, and Sega Ages. So I think, even though this is the PC gaming show for Sega, I think other things possibly could come out for them if those end up being on PC as well, as besides of just the consoles. So it really does depend for me, but I really am hoping for Jet Set Radio Future and Sonic Unleashed the most, because those are two big games that I know that fans have wanted for a long time from Sega on PC.
Okay, interesting. Wolfman, what about you?
To be honest, I'm not totally sure what to expect from the PC gaming show. I'm excited. Just because I think that we'll hopefully see some kind of smaller productions that usually don't get a lot of representation in some
Right.
bigger things.
Hopefully, at least.
Yeah.
All right.
So I guess now we're moving back to
Yeah. So let's
Other
jump
two,
back up
okay.
to Square Enix then. So we're within Monday, June 11th now. Square Enix is the first of the day at 1 p.m. Eastern time. So, am I wrong to think that the biggest thing that Square Enix will probably have is Kingdom Hearts 3?
I think it will be.
I think that's their like number one biggest thing that they need to push and get everybody on board for, more than they already have.
I think we'll see it. I don't think we'll see that much of it. Like, I don't think it's...
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I'm thinking that it is we're probably not going to get like a super recent or a release that's super close.
Okay.
I'm very mixed on it, because as much as I do want to see Kingdom Hearts 3, I also don't want too much of it to be spoiled.
Right. That makes sense.
But if the game is coming out this year, and I have firm beliefs in it coming out this year, Kingdom Hearts 3 has never been delayed, no matter what anyone else says. They never gave a date until recently.
Okay.
And with it stating coming 2018, I really do believe that it'll come out. It will come out this year. If it gets delayed, that will be very unfortunate. But with the recent Kingdom Hearts 3 premiere event, I think it's I think it really is time for Kingdom Hearts 3 to have a release date. I think maybe September or October this year would be good for Kingdom Hearts 3. Aside from Kingdom Hearts 3, there's I think Final Fantasy VII remake might show up, and maybe Dragon Quest XI. I think those might be the other two big titles that end up showing up, because there has been discussion on where is Final Fantasy VII remake. When was we haven't seen it in quite a while, and we also have gotten strange wordings of it being delayed, or not delayed, since they never really gave a release date, but word of it coming like 2023, I think, or 2021.
Yeah, like basically of just like problems coming up, meaning like the originally anticipated but never exactly revealed release window being pushed back.
Right, and it was meant to have episodic type releases from what we've also heard back when it was back around, I believe, this when the second trailer was shown, or maybe around, yeah, I'm pretty sure when the second trailer, the gameplay trailer was shown. So it's gonna be really weird hearing about how the development for Final Fantasy VII Remake is going, or any news about it in general, because most of what we've known about it has been either rumors or just not completely 100% sure. So I think it's definitely going to be a bit weird to learn more information about that, but I think it would be very good to learn more information about that.
Yeah, that's fair.
On the note of Final Fantasy, how do you think World of Final Fantasy is coming? Like, do you think we'll see it?
In terms of like, do you think it'll get more content, or do you think it's just like done now?
The former.
I personally haven't heard anything else about it, so I don't think it will get new content. Maybe the City of Final Fantasy, NT. I can see that getting more content, but not World of Final Fantasy. I don't know if anything else was added to it. I don't know. I don't know when like development for more content in it stopped, but I'm not against them updating it. That's definitely, if they add more content to it, it will push me to buy the game more, since I was interested in it in the first place. So that's definitely, if there is more content to it, that would be good. If it gets ported or something like to Switch, that'd be good too.
Okay, so the other thing we mentioned for Square Enix then is Dragon Quest XI, and I guess anything related to Dragon Quest, because they seem like they've been putting more of those on. I know a little while back they put some more of those on 3DS and also on Switch. I don't know. I don't remember if all the ones predicted for Switch already came out, but I know they're still working on a lot of those.
From what I've heard, it was that Dragon Quest XI for, I believe, PlayStation will come out next year.
Okay.
I think, and then Dragon Quest XI for Switch will come out much later.
Okay.
And Dragon Quest XI for 3DS, I don't even think is getting localized. I'm pretty sure it's not getting localized at all.
Okay.
And those games are already released in Japan, so although I don't think that, well, I do think that they'll actually talk more about it, considering the fact that as the English market, we might not know as much about it, or might not know as much as what they're planning to do with the series. Well, not the series, but just that specific game. I think I think a lot of information will come out of that, especially in terms of when they're planning, with specifically stating from Square when they're planning to release it, for Switch as well, considering the fact that it seems like it'll be a bit farther into the future. So I think word on that would be really good for Square Enix.
Okay.
I'm not exactly sure what else to expect from Square Enix.
I think that covers the majority of it, though. Wolfman, were you saying something? It sounded like you got cut out as soon as you started saying something.
This is Discord's voice chat. You are not cool. Anyway, I was actually specifically referring to Hitman 2.
Ah.
Well, isn't Hitman not owned by Square Enix anymore?
It's sort of. I guess I don't know anymore.
Okay, so essentially Square Enix let Hitman Dev keep its IP.
Yeah, IO Interactive.
So I guess they don't really own it anymore.
No, that's correct. I forgot. But
yeah,
I guess then we should save that for the Nintendo thing, or
what, Hitman, or
yeah. I mean, or should we just talk about it now?
I mean, you mentioned it. You can talk about it now because we already mentioned it, so that should be fine.
Okay, basically, Hitman 2, there's some kind of thing in the source code for the official website that offhandedly mentions Switch.
Really?
Yep.
I did not know about that. So that's news to me.
I just heard it earlier today, so it might end up being defunct or something later, but...
I'm not knowledgeable on the Hitman series, and I'm also not knowledgeable on Tomb Raider, but do you think we might see anything from that series as well, considering the fact of with the movie, and I believe there's a new game coming out as well, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, or I believe it's something around that. Shadow of the Tomb Raider, I believe it's called.
Makes sense to me. The most recent Tomb Raiders are fairly successful, and
Okay, yeah. So Shadow of the Tomb Raider was officially revealed April 27th. So I think
Okay.
we might get more news about that Shadow of the Tomb Raider.
Yeah, that'd probably be
That's
good then.
possible. Other than that, maybe Nier in some way, because I know Nier has gotten really popular with Automata, and although that kind of came out of nowhere, but I think if Yoko Taro was to come out with something for Nier so quickly, maybe either new content for Nier Automata or maybe just a new game in general. That could be. I don't think it'll be on a smaller scale, but I think expecting something expecting something soon from Nier, I guess personally feels a bit too early. But maybe if it's just like a small reveal, like a small teaser, then I can see that. I can see that possibly happening.
I can see it.
I think it's too recent. I don't. Nier did get a small amount of DLC, just a joke where you could fight Square Enix executives in a boss fight. But you know,
I do remember that.
I mean, it's a great game on its own. I don't really see them going back to it that much. Can see. I'm very certain they and Yoko Taro will be, and by they I mean Platinum Games and Yoko Taro will be working together on another project soon. But
I wish I could have played Nier. I bought it for my computer and I can't run it.
Oh.
So yeah, I'll definitely experience that game one day. I've heard a lot of good things about it. So. Hopefully, a new Nier game doesn't release by the time I actually do get to enjoy it.
Oh, actually, that reminds me. Sega owns Platinum Games.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, Bayonetta 3 we'll probably talk about in the Nintendo section, and Wonderful 101 if we think that's getting a port, obviously, there too. Any new series we're thinking?
From Platinum?
Yeah.
I can see at least a teaser for something new.
Yeah, I mean, if they're considering the fact that they might have I'm not entirely sure because if they have their hands filled up with like Bayonetta 3 or something, I don't think maybe if a new Nier game was to come out, I don't think it might be by Platinum Games in collaboration with Square Enix. I think it could either be another developer or like you said how you think it's too early for Nier. I think they might wait until Platinum is free again.
Yeah. They are on a lot of projects right now.
Right.
Yeah. But it's still cool that they and Yoko Taro both got a huge commercial and critical success. Like, really good on
right.
them. And everyone just, if you have a PlayStation or a PC that can run it, play Nier Automata. It's really good.
Alright. So, I think that wraps up specifically Square. And by extension, the other things we mentioned there. So why don't we move down to Ubisoft, which is for Monday, June 11th at 4 p.m. Eastern.
Right.
Is this where we get to mention all the memes about Assassin's Creed Odyssey?
I think it would be best to do that because when I saw Odyssey, the first thing I thought was Mario.
Yep.
So I can't. It's hard to hold back.
The first thing I thought of was just that. I mean, I've heard really good things about Origins, but man, I am so burnt out on Assassin's Creed, and the last one I played was years ago.
Yeah, I have no connection to Assassin's Creed either. So, mostly Ubisoft in general, but I am aware of their projects, concerning the fact of I was actually very impressed with their conference last year. I know a lot of people make fun of Ubisoft because like here's Just Dance releasing on the Wii still. Here's a whole bunch of people coming out on stage and dancing, but
that stuff sells.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that stuff sells, but as people do say, it does end up being pretty. As people like to say, it does end up being pretty cringy. But I'll definitely put air quotes over that because for some people it's hilarious. For others, it's just like why even bother? But they definitely had some heavy hitters, I think. As I'm personally interested in Starlink for the little. It's kind of like the little figure game, kind of like Skylanders, where you have different ships and you're putting them on you're connecting them to the console, and that's the ship that you play with. So I thought that was a really cool announcement that they had. So I definitely would love to hear more from that if especially if it's coming out this year, I'd like to see a release date maybe, or even just more content on it. What kind of other ships there will be.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of about Beyond Good and Evil 2?
Yes, that's as somebody who has only heard of Beyond Good and Evil. I was very surprised when they announced it last year. So I think anything coming from Beyond Good and Evil, any word about Beyond Good and Evil will definitely look good on Ubisoft.
Yeah, I'm hoping for it. My opinion of the first Beyond Good and Evil kind of went down a little bit over the years, but it's still a wonderfully imaginative game, and honestly, it's good. It deserves to get a second act.
We'll have to see with that. With Ubisoft, I think it's important to mention Mario and Rabbids, because that was where they revealed it last year.
Yeah, right.
And remind me, do we have a release date for the Donkey Kong DLC coming to that yet? I know they did an info drop a little while back, but
yeah, I don't think so.
In terms of a release date, I believe it's coming in June. It's coming. It says it will launch in June.
okay.
So
They'll say it.
I don't see an official release date, but I just do see June. So I think probably an announcement at either Nintendo's or most likely Ubisoft, since that was where they first announced it.
Yeah, I think Ubisoft would keep control over announcements for Mario and Rabbids. If there's more with the DLC aside from the Donkey Kong, they might also tease it there, if not fully show it. But they've been doing really well with that, and I think they're gonna keep riding that for a while because that's been actually a really big success.
Yeah,
and I can't see them ignoring that.
yeah. I could see them doing another crossover with Nintendo, or I could see them kind of just milking that a little more.
Yeah, I think it might be a little too early for another crossover, but definitely another year of milking this, I can definitely see happening.
Yeah, and I mean, if we're talking about Ubisoft like repeating successes, I mean, you could just look at all of their open world games.
I guess one of the big things when it comes to Ubisoft is, do you think we'll see Rayman?
Oof, maybe.
Yeah, it's always a mixed bag when I think about it, because as somebody who doesn't really know much about Rayman, I always hear people asking for it. So I always hear people after what Artsiamni did, I think a lot of eyes are on Rayman. I think a lot of eyes are on Ubisoft in order for them to do something with Rayman. And I believe it was a Rayman Legends Definitive Edition had recently came out for a Switch. So I think with that, I think maybe a new Rayman title would probably be good for them it's hard for me to think of what to say, because I can definitely imagine them announcing it. Will they actually do it? I kind of doubt it, sadly.
I could see them at the very least like confirming they are indeed working on one, but not actually like really show anything.
Yeah.
Right. I think that'll be better.
Yeah, I'm not really expecting it, and I'd love it to see it because Rayman Origins and Rayman Legends were some of the most like wonderfully designed 2D platformers in a fairly long while.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, a Rayman Origins port would be nice.
That would be interesting.
Are there any other games from Ubisoft that we failed to mention? Because
not that I know of.
I guess just to make sure, I'll check last year's E3, because I do remember one other thing coming from them, but I'm not completely sure. Because again, they have Assassin's Creed Origins, which I mean, we know about that. I'm expecting an Assassin's Creed game. Last year they showed The Crew 2, which is like a racing game.
Yeah,
so that's go ahead.
It's a pseudo open worldy racing game. It did not do well, so I was a little surprised that it got a sequel, or that they've announced a sequel. There's also the Tom Clancy games. I think you might see something from like Rainbow Six Siege, but probably not. That's more of a niche thing.
And then Far Cry 5 already came out, so that's one of the things already slated off for showing it unless they have some DLC coming out. That's really it. I think that would be it for Far Cry 5. They're gonna, unless they decide to mention Far Cry 6 in development. I think that'll be kind of hush for now.
Yeah. No, I mean, Far Cry 3 came out 2013, Far Cry 4 2015, Far Cry 5 last year, so announcing it isn't really that implausible, even if we're
That's
probably...
fair.
I thought Far Cry 5 was earlier this year.
Oh, dear God, it might have been.
It wasn't?
Honestly, it might
I'm not
be.
completely sure.
I am so sorry.
It's
Honestly,
okay. It's okay because I don't really keep an eye on Far Cry, so even I probably would have made this exact same mistake.
Yep, it came out in March.
It came out March.
Yeah. So, you were right. I was wrong. My apologies.
Wow,
It's it's okay.
That's more recent than I thought.
Yeah.
March 27th, 2018, and that was only from March to June. That's 3 months. That's a 3-month gap. So I definitely think that it would be way too
Oh yeah.
early. Well, again, I'm not familiar with Far Cry, so I don't actually know how early they announced their games and close to how, when the last one released. But if anything comes out for Far Cry 5, I think it would be for Far Cry 5. I think it would just be more DLC. And in terms of Far Cry in general, I doubt a new game announcement at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So why don't we move on from Ubisoft then? So do we want to go back to the PC gaming show, or do we think we said everything we needed to on that when we jumped to it earlier?
Is there anything else that we really want? If are there anything that you guys want to see out of PC? Because I'm personally not a PC gamer.
Yeah,
I'm not really either. So I don't really know what I would want to see either.
I was gonna say one thing that a group that I'd really like to see is Annapurna Interactive. They're the people who published What Remains of Edith Finch, Gorogoa, the TV edition of Kentucky Route Zero. They've got some stuff that's announced but doesn't really have a release date that hopefully I'd like to see, like something like the Artful Escape or the Her Story sequel, Telling Lies. Those I think I would like to see.
So I guess next would be Sony.
Yep. So now we're up to Sony, and there's going to be a lot here.
I guess to start out with Sony, with what we know that's coming right now, Spider-Man. I've never played. Well, I have played one of the Spider-Man games, but that was a long time ago, so I don't know as much about it. But I am kind of hopeful for like open world experience and like being able to explore the world outside of just the little area that they might give you.
Right.
Maybe some more gameplay out of that, but that's really all I can think for in terms of Spider-Man.
Well, it comes out this fall, I think in September, right? So they're gonna have to show enough to convince people to get it in this time if they were not already convinced from its reveal last year.
And actually, I don't think Sony is doing like a standard E3 conference. I think they're kind of doing something like kind of like where I believe it was last year, their PlayStation Experience. They did it where it's like, I guess their PlayStation Experience last year was basically them sitting on a couch and just having them talk about games like that they showed off.
Yeah.
Where it was just like they showed off Death Stranding, and then that's what I remember the most. But what they did show up at the end was Medieval. I hope I pronounced that right. Medieval. So I think that would be the biggest thing for Sony. But aside of that, I believe there was 4 specific games that they were showing off for E3. So I guess if we want to talk about those games, or at least what games do you think, aside from what those 4 could be, will get shown off at Sony?
Well, so you've already mentioned Spider-Man. You were mentioning Death Stranding, which is obviously going to be there again, and confuse people again, as usual.
And delight me.
Oh yeah, of course, basically. Beyond that, I don't know what else specifically. You guys might know better than me what specifically Sony will have, but I can guarantee Sony's probably going to have more surprises that are going to blow people away a little bit, or at least a little bit, and grab a lot of attention. Because that's what I feel like they do that almost every year, where they get all this attention the night before Nintendo's, and then suddenly the two of them are held on this pedestal for having like really amazing things shown off.
It's either they either have the best conferences or the worst, and no one ever
Yeah.
considers them in between. Like 2015's was not atrocious; it just wasn't great, but it was despised.
What happened last year? Not last year. What happened in 2015? It was so long ago that I don't really remember.
Oh yeah, that was when they announced Star Fox Zero. It was.
Oh.
It was also when they announced, I want to say, Color Splash and Federation Force.
Color Splash wasn't E3, but what they did
okay.
have in Nintendo's E3 2015 had Mario Tennis Ultra Smash.
Yeah, there were some smaller games that were nice. It's just that, everyone just kind of focused on the not great looking Metroid game, and that was it.
Oh boy, that was definitely a dark time, I think.
It's worth just pointing out that, like, the last public statement Satoru Iwata ever made was apologizing because for how people, making people feel upset over that.
Yeah.
Which is
I
really
remember that.
depressing to think about.
Which is really depressing, yeah. I do wonder if at Sony's E3 presentation, because we have a little bit left with Sony, and I do wonder if we're going to see them address more so why they're so against crossplay, in more than what they've already said.
They won't say anything about it.
That would be nice to know.
Because they've been rather vague on it, and it doesn't feel like they're giving us the full reasoning behind it. Or alternatively, we can see we can see that maybe they've gone back on that, and suddenly they're also going to be included in the Minecraft update at the end of the month. I don't know about that, but point being, there's time, and that would be a good place for them to do that. Because otherwise, I think they're going to get some backlash still.
I think, honestly, they're not going to say anything. I think that, like, the smartest thing for them to do, not the best thing for them to do, but the smartest would just to not talk about it, let people speculate, and not, like, fan the flames. If they want to be honest, I actually would really love that, but they're not going to be honest about it, so they may as well just not talk about it.
Exactly.
In regards to Sony's other games, The Last of Us Part 2.
Ah, yes. Forgot about that one.
And Ghost of Tsushima by Sucker Punch. And Days Gone, which I believe just today got a release date for February 22nd, 2019.
Okay.
Neat.
Yeah. So we already know about Days Gone and its release date. So I guess Days Gone is like the basically the biker versus zombie game. That kind of just like, it's kind of, I guess, if you want an example, it's Far Cry with zombies from the way that it looks.
Huh.
That's honestly what it looks like to me, Far Cry but with zombies. Which I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I personally don't see much out of the zombie genre with video games. Like with stuff like Metal Gear Survive, stuff like Left 4 Dead. I personally don't see that kind of stuff.
That's fair.
Interesting. Because I kind of always feel like they're the same kind of thing.
Oh, they are. Basically, agree with you on that. They're not interesting, or for the vast majority of them aren't interesting. And honestly, I thought, like, when you had mentioned that, I was like, wait, didn't Far Cry already have a zombie game? Like,
Did it?
I don't think it did, but like, but it just seems so like obviously generic. Like, of course they would have had that.
If they did, I wouldn't know. But I mean, if they making that kind of like connection, I guess that would be kind of strange if it did. Oh boy. But in terms of Last of Us Part 2, I think we'll see more information about that, because last year we just got another trailer, which was very weird, because I believe it was about the main character that they're focusing on. It was like trying to defeat this lady or whatever that was holding her hostage or something like that. It's hard to describe it, because I do remember it being very violent.
Wait, what? Was that at last E3?
I'm pretty sure it was.
Oh my god, wow, it's been a year since that trailer? Jeez, okay. Yeah, we definitely need to
Right.
see more about that then.
Definitely. It was either it was either at E3 or the PlayStation Experience, but I think it was at E3 because I don't remember their PlayStation Experience last year being that good.
Okay.
Yeah, because it was right after the it was right after the Game Awards last
Mm.
year.
Yeah,
So
yeah, you're
a
right.
lot of it was like really watered. That event almost entirely was pretty watered down because that's when we also got a Death Stranding trailer from the Game
Yeah,
Awards.
yeah,
So I
you're
think
right.
Sony really needs to pull out some big guns. But since they're also Sony exclusives, I think they won't really have any competition in terms of who can show their games.
Right.
So in terms of Ghost of Tsushima, I'm not exactly sure what that is, and I don't really have any experience with Sucker Punch. So, uh, I guess whatever happens from that, I hope is surprising.
Hmm.
But in terms of Last of Us Part 2, I know a lot of people are looking forward to that. A lot of people are very hyped about it. But as somebody who doesn't know about it, I just hope that more is elaborated on so that people who don't really know much about it, like me, are able to at least be hyped about it.
Yeah.
Instead of just saying like, hey, you guys got what you wanted. Congratulations.
That's fair. No, I understand that.
Because initially I was going to say, like, oh, what about Bloodborne 2? Or a Bloodborne 2? And it got me to thinking that, there's a possibility that Shadows Die Twice, the new FromSoft game, might be exclusive to Sony, just because that was the case with Demon Souls, that was the case with Bloodborne.
Mm.
So
Okay.
maybe Sony's conference is where we'll get, to see what the new From project is. FromSoft.
With that, that'll wrap up the first half of this discussion. Thank you all for watching, and if you liked this video, make sure to like and subscribe. You can find all of our social media links in the description below. I'd like to thank all of our patrons, including our super patron, the Duke of Dorks. You can find a link to his channel in the description below. Anyway, make sure you catch part 2 of this discussion later.